Hey guys, welcome to a new video. Like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy. Without any further interruptions, enjoy the what if. Last chapter. I hope this means you're coming around, Barry. Please tell me you love me like I love you. She continued her hopeful thinking as sleep eventually overtook her. The next morning, Ichigo woke up feeling incredible. Last night's event had left his soul feeling more whole. It was not really his best phrasing, but it just felt more complete than it ever had. It seemed strange that he'd never recognized that he wasn't whole, but he couldn't deny that it felt amazing to be that much closer. Did it feel totally complete? No. Due to his now increased awareness, he realized that there were still a few things that would hopefully solve that. However, he was happy for the moment. He jumped slightly as he felt something stir in his arms. He looked down to see a purple head of hair on his chest. Ichigo couldn't help but smile. While he couldn't tell how she felt about him, he could enjoy the moment. She was so warm, and fit into his arms perfectly. As she began to wake, he smiled down at her sleepy face. Morning bodyguard, I take it you slept well, she whispered. I did, Yoruichi-sama, he said with a smirk. They both sat up, he with a grin and she with a raised eyebrow. You seem to be in a fine state this morning, she commented. Damn, he looks good with bed hair and a smile. I am. After last night, my soul feels much closer to complete. I never noticed it until Zangetsu and Shiro pointed it out, but last night was incredible. I have you to thank, Yoruichi. You have helped me so much. You brought me back to life and gave me another chance, thank you. As he said this, he leaned forward and hugged Yoruichi tightly, reveling in the feel and smell of her warm skin. She was caught completely by surprise, but returned the hug. I'm glad I could be a part of it, Ichigo, she said quietly. Her heart was melting at his words and embrace. He can be so incredibly sweet sometimes. I'm glad I'm the only one who gets to see this side, she thought. Still, while Shiro may have gotten him a reprieve from her, enlightening him as to what her feelings were, that didn't mean that she would wait for long. Yoruichi would let him enjoy the events and results of last night, but her tolerance for his dense nature was waning. Ichigo had awoken something in her that she thought had been destroyed forever, and she was not about to lose it again. Wow, I need to wake up like this more. You run out of teasing material when I'm cheerful, he laughed, interrupting her thoughts and making her eyes narrow. Oh really? Well, we can't let that happen, can we? While still hugging him, she leaned back, bringing him over her. Well, then maybe you could share your morning joy with me, sunshine, she purred seductively in his ear. Don't mess with the master, she thought, knowing Ichigo was surely about to freak out. Ichigo shuddered slightly, making Yoruichi grin. His heart began hammering in his chest as the goddess of his dreams held him this way. Why should I be the only one to get flustered like this? Time to even the playing field a bit. Before her thoughts could go any further, Ichigo leaned down, determined to win, and resting his body along the length of hers, whispered close to her ear, "Oh kitten, what are we going to do with you?" His heart was racing, but he had to try to win the teasing contest, if only once. It was getting difficult to focus though, as Yoruichi was invading his every sense, clouding his mind with her mere presence. Yoruichi, however, had different ideas than the usual teasing. She wrapped her legs around Ichigo's waist, her body on fire from Ichigo's touch and his breath in her ear. She loved it when he called her kitten. Reaching her own head up and breathing with her lust-filled voice, "Ichigo," was all she whispered, needing nothing more to get her point across. Feeling his body tense and goosebumps raise on his skin, she lightly ran her tongue down his jawline, nipping his chin with her teeth. When she made eye contact again, the look in his eyes made her want to combust right there. No more teasing, please, make me yours. Ichigo looked down at the hungry golden eyes below him. His stomach clenched, this time in a good way. The feel of her tongue on his skin made his joints feel weak. His skin seemed to catch fire along the slightly wet trail it made, and his mind was overloaded in awe of his goddess. He felt something, a hunger beginning to stir within him, quickly gaining control of his senses. Surely this can't just be teasing. Please, don't let it be. Okay Shiro, I said I'd listen to my instincts. Ichigo, still staring into those beautiful, mesmerizing eyes, began to lower his face to hers. He could feel her breath on his face. Gods, what a feeling. Just as his lips brushed hers, though, a loud knock could be heard at the door, shattering the moment. Ichigo. Renji's voice could be heard through the door. Ichigo, are you in there? Get up. You have a meeting with the Saudaicho today, remember? Shit, why did they let him in? Ichigo muttered, thoroughly annoyed at the ruination of the moment. I am going to kill Renji for ruining what would have been probably the most amazing moment I've ever had. I mean, she didn't look like she was teasing, she looked like could she actually? Yoruichi was beyond livid. She was having trouble regaining her reason as her mind had nearly blanked from the incredible feel of Ichigo's lips on hers. Ichigo finally responds, and he tries to kiss me, and that stupid asshole has to come and interrupt. He better hope that the worst I do is just to kick his ass from here to the Rukongai. Looking down at the now severely frowning purple-haired goddess, Ichigo leaned down and lightly kissed her cheek, surprising himself and causing them both to blush. Are you coming, oh goddess of flash? He asked with a resigned smirk. I suppose, she said, her frown subsiding slightly when he kissed her cheek. Someone has to give a status report on you. I guess we had better get going, she said, almost pouting. She was not happy, not in the least, but was forced to admit that there were more important things to take care of right now. But later, oh, you had better be ready, Ichigo Kurosaki. As they got up, they exited the room, meeting a surprised Renji. Before he could say anything, Ichigo held his hand up, don't even think it. She just watched over me last night after I met up with Zangetsu and Shiro. Renji held his hands up in a defensive gesture. Hey, I didn't say a word. Hurry up, we've got a meeting to get to, he said as Yoruichi passed him, giving him a murderous look. Looks like I did interrupt something. After Ichigo's reactions last night, better leave it alone. Okay, we'll be out shortly. Just gotta grab a shower first. I'll be ready in 10 minutes, Ichigo called as he headed to the washroom. Soon after, both he and Yoruichi were ready and they all started the trip to the 1st Division barracks, where the Sutekus office was. As they approached the building, each wrapped up in their own train of thought, Renji broke the silence. So, any ideas as to what you're going to do yet? Renji was hoping Ichigo was planning to stick around. It was nice to have someone he could count on like a brother around. Not sure, really. It's really dependent on what opportunities present themselves, Ichigo said, shooting a quick glance at Yoruichi. Please don't let this morning have been a fluke. Maybe I should tell her everything tonight. Maybe. I guess that makes sense. Weird that they'd want you in a captain's meeting, though. Ichigo and Yoruichi said together. A captain's meeting? That can't be good, can it? I mean, I know I'm on good terms with most of them, but what does this mean? Do not worry, Ichigo. You haven't done anything to label yourself as a threat to Soul Society. However, you will have plenty of questions to answer, I would imagine. What do you mean? What questions? What did I do now? This was going to be interesting. More questions to answer when he had questions of his own. Ichigo, ask Yoruichi if she can feel your Reiatsu, Zangetsu said mysteriously. What? Why would I do that? Just do it. Damn, you ask too many questions. Just trust us, Shiro snapped. Fine, sheesh. Hey, Yoruichi, can you feel my Reiatsu? Yoruichi blinked. Why would he ask? Wait a minute, what the hell? Ichigo, it's gone. What happened? They said you'd be fine. She started to panic. She hadn't even paid attention to his Reiatsu since last night. Renji was worried too. This was not the time for surprises. I thought he was suppressing it. What the hell, Ichigo? We don't have time to explain fully, just tell them that we are containing it. We can explain more fully during the meeting if needed. Zangetsu and Shiro said that they're containing it for now. They can explain more later, Ichigo said. Yoruichi and Renji heard the worry in his voice, but couldn't voice their own concerns as they had reached the doors to the meeting hall. Okay, well, we're here. Ichigo, don't forget to be respectful, Yoruichi warned, trying to recover her calm as she stressed about Ichigo's Reiatsu. Yeah, sheesh, Ichigo said as he remembered Yoruichi's sturdy head slap last time. Renji knocked on the door, receiving a gruff, enter. Well, here we go, he said, opening the doors. Upon entering, Ichigo saw the captains lined up in formation, 6 on one side, 5 on the other with the head captain in the middle of the 2 lines. Ichigo and Yoruichi approached, stopping as they reached the first row of captains. Lady Yoruichi Shihoin, you have trained Ichigo Kurosaki for the past week. What is your report of his status and current level? Yamamoto asked. His hand-to-hand combat is proficient, his swordsmanship is above proficient, his Kido has taken remarkable strides, and his level of cooperation with his Zanpakuto has never been better, she said with a note of pride. Good. Kurosaki, I notice an absence of your Reiatsu. Are you suppressing it? The Saotaicho asked. That would be a most impressive accomplishment for a week. Ichigo gulped. Shit, he'll know if I'm lying. I wouldn't exactly say suppressing it, sir, he said lamely, tacking on the, sir, to avoid Yoruichi's punishing slaps. No. Then what would you call it? Yamamoto asked, one eye slightly opening. Well, I guess, Ichigo started. Maybe you guys could help here. Very well, we can manifest, should you will it. However, I would warn the captains first. Shiro may not get such a warm welcome. Yeah, tell him not to be afraid of the big bad hollow, Shiro cackled. Yes, Kurosaki. Yamamoto prodded as he heard impatient grumbling around him from the captains. Would it be alright if Zangetsu and Shiroi Kyo, my inner hollow, come out to help explain? He will behave, he added. This started louder grumbling, more surprised this time. Yamamoto's eyes both opened as his cane hit the ground. He can manifest both his Zanpakuto and his hollow. Silence, he said to the other captains. Very well, Kurosaki, proceed. Ichigo nodded, then closed his eyes. He began to concentrate on bringing both Zangetsu and Shiro out. He soon heard a few gasps in the room, and he opened his eyes. Hiya King, Shiro smirked. The looks on some of the captains' faces were priceless. Hello, Ichigo, Zangetsu said politely. Then all turned to the Saotaicho. Saotaicho Yamamoto, I presume, Zangetsu asked. When Yamamoto nodded, Zangetsu continued. The reason you cannot feel Ichigo's Reiatsu is due to the fact that it is currently at a level above any of your awareness. His current Reiatsu level is on par with what it was when he had activated the final Getsuga Tensho against Aizen. While initially raising his eyebrows at that news, Ichigo smirked at Zangetsu's tone. He always felt warm whenever he heard the protective note in Zangetsu's voice. That note always became apparent when Aizen was discussed. All of the captains, lieutenants, and Yoruichi's eyes widened. Even Yamamoto's eyes opened at this news. Yeah, we all decided to get along, so now Kingi is finally starting to realize his potential. We still have a bit of work to do, but that's to be expected, nay, Shiro added, grinning at the looks of discomfort he was receiving. How is this possible? The last time you elevated your powers to this level, you lost them, Byakuya asked, echoing the sentiments of the rest of the room. I guess it's because I have come to accept my soul as it is. My powers have been limited by my conflict against different aspects of my soul. It wasn't until I actually accepted parts of it that it began to approach its completion, I guess you could say. Captain Unohana was the one to speak this time. Are you telling us that you have still not reached, in your words, completion of your soul? Zangetsu was the one who answered this, saying, Ichigo has 1 or 2 aspects that he has yet to address. While we will not divulge what those are, I have faith in him. I'm glad you do, Shiro added in a mocking tone. He'd have been done ages ago if his head wasn't planted up his oof. He was cut off as Ichigo had moved over and punched him in the stomach, several of the captains chuckling at the exchange. What he meant to say is, we're working on it, Ichigo said with a glare at Shiro, who simply shrugged. Does this mean that, once the issue, or issues are addressed, Kurosaki's powers will have reached their peak? Yamamoto asked. Zangetsu chuckled, drawing stunned looks from Shiro and Ichigo. Did he just chuckle? Hardly, the normally stoic spirit scoffed. Ichigo's soul is not bound by limits. His passion for those he holds dear and his strength of character will always push him to reach new heights. Ichigo's only barrier would be himself. Ichigo smiled at the note of pride in his Zanpakuto's voice. I won't let you down, old man. After a nod at both Shiro and Zangetsu, they then faded back into Ichigo. Yamamoto was silent for a moment. Yet another example of this boy defying the odds. I see. Ichigo Kurosaki, you never cease to amaze. This information will remain confidential among captains only. Now that you've had some time, do you know what you plan to do with these powers? This is what Yamamoto was interested in. He had little doubts about the boy's character, but where was his heart? Given this new revelation, Kurosaki, your choices are even more limited. I do not, sir. I am not fully aware of my options. It will be a while before I can enter my human body again. I am sure I'll have to find a way to actually suppress my Reiatsu, but to answer your question, no, I haven't made any decisions. I still intend to protect all I can, I just don't know in what capacity. Smart kid, finally starting to wait and see what options he has before deciding. I see. You have certainly matured, Kurosaki. In light of your many achievements, inspirational dedication to your comrades, and service to Soul Society, I would like to offer you a position within the Gote 13. Ichigo paused. While not overtly shocked, he still wanted to know, and what position would you recommend me for? Yamamoto opened one eye. Taiko of Squad 5, pending the approval of the other Taikos. Ichigo was stunned. What the hell? Me, a captain? Me. Are you sure you'd want me as a Taiko? He asked dumbly. Yoruichi, who had been silent up till this point, took the opportunity to smack Ichigo across the head again. Why would he offer it otherwise, baka? Ichigo looked over to her with a half-hearted glare. He was still too stunned at the offer. He had expected something like being assigned to one of the squads as a seated member or resuming his substitute responsibilities. Taiko had never even been on his radar. Yet, as he thought on it, one thought started to take root in his mind. I'll be nearer to Yoruichi, and I'd have something to actually offer. Before you answer, I will call a vote of the Taikos, Yamamoto said, interrupting his thoughts. Turning to the captains before him, he declared, you will each give your vote, as well as a brief reasoning. I have given my vote already, so we will proceed numerically onwards. Begin. As Soi Fan stepped forward, Yoruichi became slightly nervous. What will she say? Surely she's not so jealous that she'd deny me. I mean, Ichigo, this honor. I vote in favor of Ichigo Kurosaki becoming Taiko of Squad 5. His fierce loyalty would be a benefit to Soul Society. Stepping back in line, she glanced at Yoruichi, who breathed a small sigh of relief. Ichigo's little display last night must have impressed her. Izuru Kira, who had been promoted to captain of Squad 3, stepped forward, saying, I vote in favor of Ichigo Kurosaki becoming Taiko of Squad 5. His service to Soul Society and to the Gote 13 has been inspirational. Retsu Unohana stepped forward, smiling kindly and saying, I also am in favor of Ichigo Kurosaki becoming Taiko of Squad 5. His strength of character and dedication to protecting others is in keeping with the highest of standards of the Gote 13. Byakuya Kuchiki stepped forward. Ichigo couldn't help but to be nervous. Sure, their last encounter had been a positive one, but could the Kuchiki's love for tradition be swayed? I vote in favor of Ichigo Kurosaki becoming Taiko of Squad 5. His determination to always do what is right has, and will always serve the realm's benefit. Sajin Komamura stepped forward, and in his deep baritone voice said, I too vote in favor of Ichigo Kurosaki becoming Taiko of Squad 5. His selfless character and actions have proven him a man worthy of following, and a worthy addition to the Gote 13. Shunsui Kairoku stepped forward, a small smile on his face. Of course I vote in favor of Ichigo becoming Taiko of Squad 5. Life is so much more interesting with him around, he finished with a small chuckle. Hisagi Shuahei, who had been promoted to Squad 9 captain, stepped forward and said, I vote in favor of Ichigo Kurosaki becoming Taiko of Squad 5. He is an amazing warrior and never gives up. Toshiro Hitsugaya stepped forward, saying, I vote in favor as well. Kurosaki's strength of character is beyond question. Kenpachi Zaraki stepped forward, hell yeah, I vote for Ichigo. I can fight him whenever I want to now. Mayuri Kuratsuchi stepped forward, looking utterly bored. I vote for him as well. I see no reason why not. Lastly, Jashiro Yukitaki stepped forward, I vote in favor of Ichigo Kurosaki becoming Taiko of Squad 5. Even at our darkest moments, he trusted us and fought alongside us. Such a man is a tremendous asset to Soul Society and the Gote 13. Ichigo was in shock. They all voted for me. I thought they forgot about me after I lost my powers. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. You just need to watch your ass, now, Shiro muttered in his mind. They have always been searching for a way to get you on their leash. Of course, if they screw with us, we have the power to rip that leash apart. I agree that we should tread carefully, Ichigo. However, while I agree that they want some measure of control over you, offering a captain's post seems to be an offer of trust on their part. Though I do not sense any harmful intent on their part, Shiro is right, we will be prepared to handle any treachery, should it arise. Right, I expected as much. Still, this could be good. A presence and position within Soul Society could help remove obstacles that we might face in the future. Plus, I have an idea that could provide us with several close allies and strengthen the Gote 13 at the same time. I am going to accept. Yamamoto slammed his cane against the ground. Very well. Ichigo, you are hereby offered the post of Taiko of Squad 5. Before you speak, you should know the path you have before you. Squad 5 has been almost completely decimated. Aizen's betrayal hit them the hardest, and now most every seated member had transferred squads. You will be responsible for finding quality squad members as well as helping Squad 5 regain respect in the Gote 13. What say you? Yamamoto was very intentional in offering this post to Ichigo. He knew the young Shinigami would have an uphill battle in gaining approval for his posting, as well as developing an understanding disposition when it came to Soul Society's comfort with his level of power. Even with approval from the other captains, and his status as a hero, there was much for him to prove in order to calm the fears of those who didn't know him and his character. This was Kurosaki's chance to shine, and to prove his trustworthiness and leadership mettle to all of Soul Society, including Central 46. With the new revelations about his power, this chance was even more important, as it could quell many fears and reservations. However, Yamamoto also wanted the offer to honor and express gratitude for the boy's extraordinary level of service. Hearing the state of the squad, or at least what was left of it, Ichigo scowled. Aizen destroyed so much. The scars he left affect so many. I am truly honored by your offer, and your words. Barring a few conditions, I will gladly accept, Saotaicho. Yoruichi wanted to smack him again. You get offered a captain's position and you're already making demands. What would you possibly want, anyways? Aside from that urge, she couldn't help but be pleased. Captain, this would be great. He would be here all the time, and after this morning, she shivered in anticipation. And what conditions would those be? Yamamoto asked as he held in a chuckle. He will never do things the easy way, will he? He reminds me so much of his father. The Kurosaki men were headstrong and belligerent, but they always had true hearts and the highest of character, so Yamamoto was more interested than worried. I wish to still be able to go to the world of the living to see my family when I choose, obviously within reason and never at the detriment of my squad or its well-being. Also, I wish to have the freedom to choose whomever I want to join my squad, and to organize it the same way. Lastly, I would like to request a few days' absence to inform my human friends and family of my decision, Ichigo said. He would not abandon his family, and he had in mind a certain few people who he wanted in his squad. Yamamoto was quiet for a moment. Not too bad, however I am curious as to the stipulations for his squad. Very well, Kurosaki, I will agree to your requests, so long as they do not bring danger or shame to Soul Society or the Gote 13. You will know that as you are the one deciding your squad's organization and personnel, you will be held directly responsible for its and their actions. If you agree, your appointment ceremony will be held in 1 week. You may use the time until then to visit your family and familiarize yourself with your new squad. I agree. Thank you, Saotaicho, and thank you, Taikos, he said, looking around the room. I am honored by your trust in me and I will not disappoint you. This meeting is now adjourned. Dismissed, Yamamoto called, once again hitting the ground with his cane. As the group began to disperse, Ichigo was surrounded by many of the captains and lieutenants. After many congratulations and well wishes, they had all finally left the first squad barracks. Soon, it was just Ichigo and Yoruichi, who had walked up behind him silently, pressing her chest to his back. That was quite the interesting meeting, Kurosaki Taiko, Yoruichi purred in his ear. Ichigo scratched the back of his head. Hey, who knew? I had no idea that they'd ever offer me that position. I guess your training will always pay off, he added with a small smile. Moving to Ichigo's front, and pressing her chest even closer to him, Yoruichi smirked up. Don't assume that just because you're a captain now means that I'm no longer your sensei. I have to make sure you make me proud as a teacher. Plus, she said, lowering her voice and moving back to Ichigo's ear, there are many topics I have yet to make you proficient in. Ichigo shivered at the implication, but he shook his head to clear it, then said, I'm sure I'd never be done learning from you, Lady Shihoin. However, would you want to go with me to the world of the living? It could be the vacation you never got to have. Yoruichi smiled. He was too cute. I'd love to, but I won't be able to go this time. Since I've had a bit of time away from my clan, I have to get back and tend to some things. How long will you be there? She really wanted to go, but she had a few things to deal with, especially after last night. She was less than thrilled at the notion of days away from him. Since she'd last gone to the world of the living, she had seen him every day and had been quite pleased with that trend. Ichigo's smile fell slightly, but he understood. No more than a few of days, I hope. My family deserves a chance to know in person, and I'm sure they're worried after the way we left, he said quietly. Well, once you get back we can get you ready for your first day as a taiko. I guess you're heading out now? She asked, liking the idea of his leaving even for a few days less and less by the second. Yeah, he replied, best to get a move on, Everybody wants to see me, he joked. Yoruichi giggled lightly, then opened a senkaiman for him. Come back soon, Kurosaki Taiko, she said with a small smile. I'll be back before you know it, Yoruichi-sama. With that, he entered the senkaiman, with each of them missing the other's face falling at the thought of being away from the other. As Ichigo exited the senkaiman, he was greeted by the familiar sight of the interior of Urahara's shop. Standing in front of him was Urahara himself in his trademark green outfit and hat. Ah, welcome back, Kurosaki-san. Quite the trip you had, wouldn't you say, Taiko? I suppose so, though for some reason I am not surprised that you know. How much do you know about what's happened lately, by the way? Oh, not too much, not too much. Just about a little drinking here, some training there, rise to Transcendence throne in there too, he said airily. So you know about that, too. Good, actually, I need to know how to seal my Reiatsu or something so I don't destroy my family or my body. I have a few things to do while I'm here, and I'll need my body for some of them. Urahara began, frowning in contemplation. A seal on your powers would be no small feat. The most effective way would be for you to seal them yourself with the aid of your Zanpakuto. How about I make you a special Gigai for this trip, then you can have more time to work on a seal. I guess that would be fine, Ichigo agreed, knowing he was more than likely going to have to talk to the sources of his power to actually control it. I don't really need it for my first errand anyways. Oh, and what errand might that be, Kurosaki Taiko? Oh, just have to recruit a squad, Ichigo said with a small grin as he left the shop. Soon, Ichigo had arrived outside of a familiar warehouse, the sight of which brought with it a wave of nostalgia. Thinking back, he remembered how the Vizards were a group with whom Ichigo had never thought he would fit in. He could still remember the first time Shinji had approached him, and how he had scoffed at their offer. However, as fate would have it, they were a group that he now felt he could trust on the same level as Chad. After seeing them in the battle against Aizen, he had never been more proud to be associated with them. Regardless of how much they resented Soul Society, they never let it come between them and doing the right thing. Add to that the level of loyalty that they had shown him, and Ichigo knew that he could have the makings of by far the strongest squad in the Seraiti. Sensing a barrier around the warehouse as he approached, he wondered how he was going to attract his old friend's attention. Inspiration striking, he smirked at a particular thought, maybe this will wake them up, as he gathered his spiritual energy into his fingertips. His dad had done this in the battle with Aizen, and he had always thought it was cool, though he'd never tell his dad that. Once he'd gathered enough Reiatsu, he flicked the barrier with his fingertip, shattering it instantly. Damn, I'll need to get used to these powers, he thought, with Zangetsu nodding in his mind and Shiro face-palming. After the barrier shattered, Ichigo made his way into the warehouse. Seeing no one around when he came to the main room, he began to step forward when he heard a voice above him. You just love a big entrance, don't you? Spinning, he saw Shinji looking down at him, smirking. I would say it looks like someone got their powers back, but to be honest, I can't feel a damn thing from ya. Rubbing the back of his head, Ichigo said, yeah, that's a bit of a long story. Is everyone here? I can give you the story, then I have something I want to ask you. Shinji had begun to twirl his cap on his finger. I suppose I could round them up for an old friend. Gotta say you've got me curious. 10 minutes later, Shinji had corralled everyone into the downstairs training area, with expressions ranging from curiosity to boredom. Look who's back, guys. Our favorite strawberry came by to talk to us. Everyone nodded, looking to Ichigo in surprise. Hiyori couldn't hold her tongue, though, and yelled, how can you see us with no Reiatsu, Baldy? It's good to see everyone, even you, Hiyori. As far as my Reiatsu goes, it's kind of an involved story. It all started when I was visiting my mother's grave. As Ichigo finished his story, including everything but his promotion, the group was staring at him with wide eyes. Your powers are back to that level to stay? Kensai asked, astonished. Mashiro, who was next to him, chirped, he's a strong berry now. This got a chuckle from the group, loosening the tense atmosphere. Which brings me to my last bit of news, Ichigo started, a bit nervous as he couldn't really predict their response. I also was appointed Taiko of Squad 5. Mouths dropped around the room. Damn, Kurosaki, you get all your powers back, get to hang around a gorgeous goddess day and night, and you get to be Taiko of my old squad. I need some of your luck, Shinji exclaimed, prompting Hiyori to slap him with her sandal. Are you ready for that, Ichigo? Rose asked, concern in his voice. Not that we doubt you, but that's quite a big life change in just a couple of weeks. I know what you mean. Well, the reality is, I have no idea how to be a captain. It's actually part of the reason I came here, Ichigo said, trying to lay some sort of foundation for his request. I get free reign of my squad as far as members, positions and organization. The reason I requested this freedom is because of you. All eyebrows in the room went up. I would like all of you to join Squad 5 with me. The silence was deafening. So, you want us to work under you? Shinji asked. He wasn't really concerned about Ichigo's motives, but he figured this question could settle the feelings for a lot of the Vizards. Only in a roundabout way. Since I would be held responsible for all of your actions, you would technically report to me. However, I had something else in mind. No offense, Ichigo, love began, but all of us were either captains or lieutenants before we were exiled. It would be a bit weird to go back to being a seated member. Of course, Ichigo agreed. That's why you wouldn't be seated members. No? Shinji asked, now confused. No, Ichigo said with a small grin. I was thinking more along the lines of Special Combat and Training Unit. Of course, that would be in conjunction with advisors to myself. You would keep whatever hierarchy amongst yourselves that you have now separately from the rest of the squad. Think of it as the holofeed on Mitsukido, he chuckled. The room went quiet again, but this time there were contemplative looks on all of the faces. If we're not seated members, where would we fall on the overall hierarchy of the squad? I can't have some brats bossing me around, Kensai grumbled. Only below myself. You would only answer to myself, and work alongside whoever I get to be my lieutenant. To be honest, I trust all of you, and your judgment. This would be a partnership between us to make Squad 5 the top squad. We would still have to do the little things, sorry, even paperwork and rankings within yourselves, but I would really like you guys to be in the squad. Plus, I know how you guys miss me when I'm away, Ichigo finished with a grin. The room erupted in laughter, with even Hiyori letting a small chuckle escape. Shinji looked around at the group. Turning back to Ichigo, he said, that's a lot to think about. Give us some time to talk it over and we will let you know. Ichigo nodded. Before turning and leaving, he said to them, that's fair. I will be here for a couple of days. I'll come back by on my way back to Soul Society and check in, okay? The group nodded, all with contemplative looks. The next few days were busy for Ichigo. Once he had obtained his special Gigai from Urahara, he had made his way to his home, deep in thought as to what he would actually say. Not thinking, he had walked up to the door of the Kurosaki clinic in time to hear, "Welcome back Ichigo oh," as well as catch a flying foot to the face. This had set the tone for the next few days. Everything was weirdly normal. His family eventually accepted what had happened with only a little crying from Yuzu and only moderate hysterics from Isshin, who spent most of his time telling Ichigo that he was now ready to get to work on settling down and making him some grandchildren. What had surprised Ichigo most, though, was when his father had sat him down at the dining table after Yuzu and Karen had gone to bed that first night. Looking at his son with a serious expression, Isshin asked, "Squad 5 Taiko, huh? What do you think about it?" Ichigo sighed, glad to have someone to let it out to. "It's a little overwhelming, to be honest. I was expecting to be offered a position as a seated member, maybe, but not Taiko. I think Yoruichi had to fight to keep herself from hitting me as hard as she wanted to when I asked old man Yamamoto if he was sure he wanted me," he finished with a chuckle. Isshin smiled. "Sounds like she should have let you have it. So how are things with you and your sensei?" he asked. Now that Ichigo had spent a while with the woman of his dreams, Isshin was curious to see what type of progress had been made. Kazuki hadn't been very forthcoming with any type of news, other than Ichigo's health, and the elder Kurosaki was eager to know after seeing their interactions while at his house. Seeing Ichigo's expression freeze, though, Isshin knew he had to put the boy's mind at ease. "Don't worry, son, your secret is safe with me. I know you care about her. I know you care for her one hell of a lot. For the past several months her name is all you'd say in your sleep. Has anything else developed?" Isshin knew that this was one time where he'd have to treat his son as a man if he was going to get anywhere in this discussion. Seeing that he wasn't being mocked, but listened to, Ichigo sighed. As it was, he'd never encountered these feelings before, but he knew his dad was most likely, and surprisingly, the only one he could talk to about them and be understood and kept in confidence. He really wanted to get it all off of his chest, to try and make some sense of it all. Yet what he wanted to say was something he was terrified to admit, even to himself. "I don't know what to say, Oyaji. You're right, I really do care about her, more than I can say, but it's not really something that matters. Her clan is trying to get her to marry some noble jackass as soon as they can," he finished with bitterness in his voice. "Kami, how I'd love to let Shiro loose on those peacock pricks." Isshin frowned. "Uh-oh. Looks like I might have to tell him his heritage sooner rather than later. Kami, how do I even begin that conversation?" Deciding to find out what course he would have to take, Isshin leaned forward, looking his son in the eye and quietly asked, "Do you love her?" Ichigo ached to be able to say, no. Not because he didn't love her, but because it would put an end to all of this maddening self-doubt, longing, and grief. However, he couldn't find the strength to lie to his father. Meeting his eye, Ichigo whispered, "Yes. Damn, my boy really has grown up. He found a woman to love. Not just any woman, but Yoruichi. Single quote dot." Isshin chuckled. "You certainly don't do anything half-assed, do you? I'm proud of you, Ichigo. Not just for your promotion, but for how you've grown. Admitting love for a woman is something only a man can truly do, because a boy simply can't grasp the concept. I've no doubt you really do love her. Have you told her?" "No. It's just so hard to believe that she could ever reciprocate. Hell, even if she did, her clan wants her to marry a noble, right? I just don't want to risk pushing her away over something she can't control." Reverting back to dad mode, Isshin reached out and smacked Ichigo in the head. "Why not give her the chance to decide? Do you think her so petty as to ignore you even if she feels differently? Love isn't something you decide, son. As I'm sure you've discovered, you don't have a lot of choice in the matter. If you love her, give her the chance to return it. Even if she doesn't, at least you'll have no regrets in the end." Ichigo chose to ignore the slap, as he knew his dad was right. It was frightening beyond belief, but his dad was right. Ichigo couldn't decide for Yoruichi. It was her choice, her feelings. Damn it, why does the old goat have to be right? Before Ichigo could voice his opinions, Isshin held up a hand, Son, I can't tell you what to do in this situation. My only advice is to follow your heart and don't give up before you've even tried. However, if you do tell her and she feels the same, come talk to me before making any long-term decisions, okay? Being a former captain, I picked up a few things about noble life and politics. Ichigo nodded. He could do that. If his dad could be serious for topics like this, Ichigo would gladly consider his advice. I will, Oyaji. Thank you. I really appreciate you talking with me about this. It was exhausting keeping it all in and trying to sort it out on my own. Anytime, son, anytime. Alright, enough with the heavy and sappy stuff for now. Tell me about these heightened powers of yours. Telling his friends was just as he had expected it to be. Shock, followed by a hilarious, to all but Ichigo, round of what Tatsuki referred to as the "take Ichigo down a peg" game, in which everyone took turns wondering aloud how someone with Ichigo's temperament and personality could be considered for captain's position. Still, Ichigo was glad for the time with them. In all the madness that had happened in the past couple of weeks, a bit of calm was welcome. Now that his powers were back, normality held much less fear for him. However, as happy as he was to see his friends, his mind always strayed back to his golden-eyed goddess. I wonder what she's doing now, was becoming a mantra of sorts in his mind. The afternoon of the 6th day, Ichigo said his goodbyes to his family and friends, then made his way to the Vizard's warehouse. Once again sensing the barrier, Ichigo, this time, tried to simply walk through it rather than destroy Hachi's handiwork. To his intense surprise, he was able to move through it with ease. That could come in handy one day. Making his way to the main room, Ichigo found himself a little anxious. He really wanted the Vizards to join his squad. Not only were they talented fighters, but they were fiercely loyal friends, trusted comrades, and Ichigo felt deserving of the choice as to whether or not they stayed in Soul Society. As he entered the room, he saw the group gathered on the bottom level of the warehouse. Hey guys, I'm about to head back to Soul Society, but I wanted to come see if you had reached a decision. Hopefully, you'll be coming with me. He looked into their faces, none giving anything away. Well, Ichigo, we did make a decision, Shinji said. None of us were too pleased to be near a bunch of hypocrites. Boo it, he said, drawing it out. We realized that you gave us a pretty sweet offer. Special combat and training unit with advisory capacity sounds pretty damn good. We're in. Ichigo started to grin, under one condition. Ichigo's eyebrow raised as Shinji finished with a wink. We get a badass uniform for the unit. Ichigo laughed. Sounds fair to me. We'll see what you come up with for the uniform. Now that that's settled, you guys ready to head out? The group nodded, shifting so that Ichigo could see suitcases and duffel bags behind where they were standing. Damn, so eager to leave this mansion? Ichigo asked. Barracks aren't much better, Cap'n, Kensai grunted. I'm sure. Now, we'll have some work to do. Apparently, Squad 5 is a shell of what it was. Little to no squad members and I'm sure we'll have some repairs waiting for us. Still, you're the first members so you get first choice of rooms. The group's outlook seemed to brighten as Ichigo gave that news. We'll go through the Senkaiman at Urahara's. I need to drop off this Gigai, anyways. A few nodded and they all set off, ready to be back in Soul Society after so many years away. Yoruichi was bored. It had been 6 days since Ichigo left, and she was considering going to the world of the living and dragging his ass back. The errands and duties for her clan were much easier and shorter than she expected. Kato had been roundly reprimanded by the council's elders for his comments to Yoruichi. He had definitely had his say though, promising revenge on the commoner who had humiliated him so. She hadn't expected Ichigo to get in trouble, but the way the elders had defended the actions of the great hero and newest Taiko was impressive. Also, the wheels were definitely in motion for her ascendance to clan leader. Her more constant presence and prestige as the mentor of the hero of the Winter War were seen with pride within the clan. Where the hell is he? She thought as the one constant thought she had had for the last week cut off all others. She missed waking up with him, especially after that last morning. Surely that wasn't a fluke. I will definitely have to create more opportunities to find out. What was really surprising was Kazuki's news of his acquisition. An entire unit of captain-level Vizards under a Transcendent, Taiko. She pitied the being that got on the wrong side of that squad. Damn it, she said, slamming the book she was reading down onto her desk. What had Ichigo turned her into? How do I go from goddess to putty for him? He's supposed to be the one pining for me. She knew though, it was a pointless argument. I've fallen for him. Damn, if I could just get him to admit he even likes me, I'd be happy. I'm pathetic. Troubles, dear, Yoruichi heard behind her. Turning quickly, she said, not at all, mother. Just a long day is all. Amaya grinned widely, oh really? You've had a long day, the past 6 days. Must be tiring, thinking of all those muscles, that orange hair, that firm little. Mother, Yoruichi exclaimed. Sure, she was thinking it, but it was a bit odd to know her mother was too. Her mother began to laugh. Dear daughter, when will you learn that you cannot fool your mother? I was just finding it odd that you would rather sit here, thinking and sulking, when you could be where he is. Turning to her mother, she said, I don't know what you're talking about, but even if he was what I was thinking of, he is in the world of the living. For Kami knows how long. Oh? Her mother asked in a voice that sounded terribly similar to Kazuki's airy mischief voice. So I must have heard incorrectly when I received word that a certain new unit in Taiko had just arrived at the Squad 5 barracks. How did you hear about this? Yoruichi demanded. Wait, what the hell am I asking for? She shun-PO'd away just as her mother was about to speak. Instead of getting angry, Amaya laughed. Kids never seem to learn. The Squad 5 barracks were a bit of a mess. As Ichigo and the Vizards discovered, it would take some TLC to get it back functioning. Ichigo sighed, can't be helped. They began to look through the building, Shinji giving a brief tour of the different areas. As they discussed different renovations that would need doing, Ichigo began to think of another need people to fill it. After tomorrow, I'm going to need to pick a lieutenant and will definitely need your help in recruiting our squad, Ichigo said to the group. We can discuss all the details later, but we have a chance to really build something here. Ichigo couldn't help but to be optimistic. The buildings would be restored to how they were, but he had the chance to build his actual squad from the ground up. With a unit of former captains and lieutenants as advisors, he knew that his recruits would be quality material. Sure, Shinji agreed. Still, we'll have to find somewhere to stay till we can get this place up and running. I'm sure I could help out in that area, a voice came from behind them. Yoruichi, Ichigo said, his face lit up with a stupid grin as he saw the goddess he'd been missing so terribly standing before him. As he looked upon his violet-haired goddess, Ichigo found that he had to utilize every ounce of willpower to fight the urge to run to her and hold her, telling her everything in his heart. Maybe that was stretching it. While that was what he wanted to do, he knew it would not go down that smoothly. He had to nail down a way to fully articulate it to himself before he could tell it to her. Expressing emotions and feelings had never been his strongest aspect outside of battle. Anger and ferocity were expressions he could manage quite easily, however what he felt for Yoruichi was something far different, and more powerful, it seemed. He had discovered in his admission to his father that he had helped to free something deep within him that had been subconsciously forced into an unseen corner of his soul, and Ichigo's entire outlook on his relationship with Yoruichi had changed because of it. Ichigo had discovered that he is not only capable of romantic love, but that he had much to give in that respect. He had never known love for another outside of family, as he'd never had the time, nor the opportunity before he had lost his powers. However, Yoruichi had made her way into his heart and changed everything. I have to find a way to tell her, soon, he resolved. As she stood there, noticing his wide, adorable grin, Yoruichi had to fight similar urges. Ah, at least he's happy to see me. Okay, he has to like me, damn it. Why do I always feel like a damn teenager around him? Gah, I'm over 100 years older than him and he still makes me all girly and needy. Forcing her attention back to the group, she said, it just so happens that I have a few rooms to let, and as far as the barracks, well, I may know a contractor or two, she finished with a smirk, looking out at the newly developed squad. Shinji spoke up, shunpoing up to Yoruichi, leave it to you to save our asses again, Yoruichi, he said as he kissed her hand. Ichigo growled, fighting another sudden urge, this one being the urge to relieve Shinji of the lips and hands that were touching his goddess. Her room is off limits, Shinji, he all but growled. Hiyori seemed to agree with this sentiment as she chucked her sandal at Shinji's head, putting him on his butt. I see the bodyguard mentality remains, Berry-chan, Yoruichi said with a raised eyebrow. Now that reaction was interesting. Filing that thought away for further contemplation, she once more turned to the group. So why don't we all head to the estate? I'm sure you're all hungry and could use some sleep before your illustrious Taiko's ceremony tomorrow, she finished with a smirk. All present besides Ichigo snickered. Yeah, come on, let's go, Ichigo grumbled as he stalked past. As he walked, Yoruichi met him stride for stride. His grumpiness quickly subsided, as he just couldn't stay mad at her. He'd missed her much more than he'd thought possible, and now that he was back, he had to constantly fight the grin that kept trying to spread. So were you able to get a lot done? I hope my reaction at the gala didn't cause any trouble, he said, looking slightly sheepish. Oh, no trouble at all. In fact, it was received well by the council. They liked the protective side of the great hero, Yoruichi said with a smile. As did I. Reaction. Lisa asked. What did you do this time, Ichigo? All of the Vizards had a curious look on their faces. Ichigo suddenly became very interested in the clouds. Well, you see, he began, before he was cut off. Haha, now you're shy. Strawberry Taiko here held one of the nobles over a balcony by his throat, threatening to rip his tongue out of his face if he ever insulted me again, Yoruichi provided brightly. It may have been a little dark for Ichigo, but she was proud that her berry cared that much, though he had much to learn when it came to dealing with noble assholes. The group stared at Ichigo, mouths agape. Going a little dark on us, aren't you there Ichigo, Shinji said. He shouldn't have said what he did, Ichigo scowled defensively, remembering the bastard's bulging eyes as his feet had dangled over the ledge. Sighing, he relented, I might have gone a little overboard, though. The group chuckled as they walked along. It was a pleasant night in the Seraiti, and the conversation was, overall, pleasant as well. Once they had all eaten and been shown to their rooms, Yoruichi walked with Ichigo back to his room. He was feeling tired from the day and ready to get some sleep before another day that was sure to be long. Thanks for letting them stay, Yoruichi. You're a lifesaver. Of course, they're old friends and are always welcome, she responded as they stopped at his door. She turned to go to her room when Ichigo grabbed her arm gently. Can I ask you something? He started nervously. She nodded and he continued, would you want to stay with me tonight? Yoruichi's eyes widened, making him slightly panic. I don't mean in a perverted way, he said like he was trying to spew the words all out at once. I just meant that whenever you slept beside me, I always slept so well, and my dreams would never be bad with you around. I kind of miss that, he said with an enormous blush. This was so much harder to do when he didn't have the excuse of exhaustion or her sneaking in to pin it on, he found. Why is it so clear in my mind, but when I try to speak I sound like an idiot? Yoruichi didn't know if she was about to burst from happiness or frustration. She had gotten something out of him, but it was by no means anything definitive. Her frustration stemmed from the fact that she knew that Ichigo had already won her heart, but she wanted him to make the move. She had given him every possible sign that she could, but she wanted him to take the first step towards us. Still, that had to be one of the sweetest and most adorable things he's ever said. Deciding to take it easy on him. Oh, I'm sure I would have ended up there with you, Ichigo. To be honest, I sleep a bit better with you around, too. You have no idea, Kami, I have missed you, you dense, irritating, gorgeous man. She would wait for morning for the teasing. His sweet side had earned him a brief respite. As they crawled in bed, Ichigo wrapped his arms around her without thinking. Freezing after a second, he began to unwrap them when she told him, "It's okay, Ichigo. The warmth is great. After all the times we've woken up together, he's still nervous about holding me. Still, this is progress," she said to herself. Sure, being in his arms after a week away makes me want to, I'll admit, though, this is better than what I was expecting. They lay like that for a while, Yoruichi listening to the sound of his heartbeat. Before she fell asleep, she felt a slight pressure on the top of her head, then heard him whisper, "I missed you." She smiled as she curled tighter to him, not wanting to risk the moment. Ichigo was still too new to the world of feelings for her to respond how she wanted, but she was content for the moment. Soon after, both fell into a peaceful sleep. Ichigo woke to the sunlight coming through the window. He had slept incredibly well. As he looked down at the head full of purple hair that rested on his chest, he remembered why. Soon after, Yoruichi stirred, looking up at Ichigo with sleepy golden eyes. "Good morning, Lady Shihoin," Ichigo said with a small smile. "Kami, she's gorgeous." She smiled lazily at him. Good morning, bodyguard Taiko." "Okay, reprieve over. Let's get a good blush before the ceremony." "Maybe I'll get a little more," Yoruichi thought. She began to stretch, rolling herself to be fully on top of Ichigo. "Of course, now that you're a captain, I have to help you expand your skill set," she said seductively as her hair fell around his face. Ichigo wasn't about to back down. Though he still had the utmost respect for women, he knew now that the only way to keep up with Yoruichi's teasing was to fight fire with fire. Not to mention, he still vividly remembered what almost happened the last he woke up with his goddess, and was hoping to find out if it was merely an in-the-moment kind of thing or something more. Gripping her wrists, he sat them both up, causing her to straddle his legs, and he held her arms behind her back while pressing his chest to hers. Leaning up to her ear, he grinned at the wide-eyed expression she now wore, while he innocently whispered, "Why, Yoruichi-sama, what could you possibly want to teach a commoner like me?" He heard her breath quicken, and remembering how she had run her tongue along his jaw, skimmed the tip of his nose along her jaw as he brought his face back to look at hers. He had been thinking up another comment before he saw her expression. The beautiful golden orbs bore into his, her mouth slightly parted as her breath hitched, and as dense as he was, even he could recognize the hunger there. It was mesmerizing, and Ichigo's mind was having trouble focusing. Slowly releasing the grip he had on her wrists, he slid his hands down, his fingers interlocking with hers. Unable to break the gaze that seemed to set his blood on fire, he slowly moved forward. Ichigo felt like he was being drawn by a siren's call by the woman he adored, loved, cared more about than life itself. All of the above and so much more. He knew he could be headed for rejection, for heartbreak, but he couldn't deviate. Not now. He closed his eyes as his lips met hers. "Yoruichi, of course, now that you're a captain, I have to help you expand your skill set," she said seductively. Looking down at him, instead of a blush, Yoruichi saw resolve form in his eyes. Feeling his hands grip her wrists, her breath caught as he sat them up, holding her arms behind her back. "Oh my," she thought. "Oh my, you better be extra careful, Strawberry. You keep this up and I really will teach you some new skills." While she certainly recognized the opportunity to get a blush, she knew she wanted this to be more than teasing. She craved it, and her heart began to quicken as the feelings threatened to overwhelm her. It was strange because, as a woman who had lived for well over a century longer than the man beneath her, Yoruichi had far more experience in the world of romance. However, it had been decades since she had even let herself think in romantic terms, and yet this beautiful but dense former pupil of hers was resurrecting feelings she had had as a teenage girl. This is where Yoruichi currently found herself, trapped between the desires and love as an experienced woman, and the elation and sense of discovery of a girl newly in love. Though Yoruichi could honestly say that while she was frustrated by his density, as she could see that he cared for her in some fashion or another, the thrill of the chase, as it was intoxicating, and that intoxication was causing her body to hum with anticipation. Her heart started to race out of her chest when Ichigo smirked while he leaned forward and whispered in a fake innocent voice, "Why, Yoruichi-sama, what could you possibly want to teach a commoner like me? Oh Barry, if you only knew." Her thoughts cut off as she felt his nose brush along the length of her jaw, his breath tickling her neck. Her body tightened deliciously, causing her breath to hitch and her blood to burn. The experienced woman side of Yoruichi began to take control at this moment, and she stared at him with open, honest want. When he looked at her, she watched his eyes widen as he seemed to get it. "Please Ichigo, I'm a woman in love with you who is being touched in ways I haven't felt in over a century. Please, no more teasing." She felt her breath quicken as his hands left her wrists to join her hands, fingers interlocking. He slowly started to move forward. Yoruichi waited, contemplating murder if he deviated. She saw his eyes close and then the world stopped as she felt his lips pressed to hers. The kiss only lasted a moment. Both parties seemed to be in such shock that it was actually happening that neither reacted, and their lips simply stayed touching each other's for that moment. Pulling back, Ichigo suddenly felt nervous. I'm sorry, he stuttered. I needed MMPH. His sentence was cut short as Yoruichi's lips reclaimed his. Coming back to her senses, Yoruichi was not about to let his innocence and Navetta copyright take this moment from her. She had waited on pins and needles for far too long for him to make a move, and now that he had, she was going to get as much as he'd give her. Okay, so it had only been a few weeks, but it was really more than that. These feelings had been growing ever since his Bankai training. She had only just allowed herself to realize what they actually were very recently. Aside from the incredible desire that was beginning to overtake his mind, Ichigo was feeling relieved. She didn't pull away, and sweet Kami, her lips are amazing. That first kiss had been the pinnacle experience in his life. It was his first kiss ever, and now his second was even better. Yoruichi was alternating between kissing his top and bottom lips, and Ichigo felt as if he were in heaven. Tentatively, she let her tongue slide past his lips, gently asking for admittance. She smiled inwardly as he nervously allowed their tongues to join with a small moan. Oh my berry boy, the things you make me want to do. She felt him loosen one hand, and she noticed him bringing it up to cup her cheek. Yoruichi was feeling euphoric as she enjoyed the sweetest, yet most arousing kiss she could ever recall. Releasing her other hand, she began to run her fingertips over the planes of his muscular chest and knock. Yoruichi broke off the kiss as her head snapped to the door, glaring and growling at it as if it had been the one to interrupt. Somebody is about to get a shunko punch to the face. If that door is knocked one more time, I swear I will. Knock. Ichigo, get your ass up. Do you really want to be late for your own ceremony? That red-haired buffoon must truly have a death wish, Yoruichi thought, anger and disappointment raging through her. What she thought of as the culmination of Ichigo finally seeing her as a woman he could possibly love, as well as the full reawakening of her heart and the moment that she got to share it with the object of its desire, was dashed by an imbecile, and she was beginning to see red. Renji, Ichigo thought in a growl of his own. The most amazing moment in his life, when he actually was able to kiss the woman he loved, was again dashed by the pineapple-headed jackass. Ichigo looked at the clock on the side of the bed. Shit, he exclaimed. He really was going to be late. Unable to help himself, he kissed Yoruichi with one last chaste kiss, and rolled out from under her and onto the floor. Time flies, nay, he said with an annoyed grin as he pulled on his outer clothes. Yoruichi merely grunted grumpily, trying to quell the red haze that had descended over her vision. Are you fucking kidding me? He finally kisses me, and, damn, what a kiss, then this jackass interrupts it. Standing up, she pushed Ichigo's back to the wall, deciding that enough was enough. Leaning up to his face, she narrowed her eyes and growled, this is not over. Your ass is mine, tonight, finishing with one last, searing kiss. Leaning down after a nervous gulp and gently kissing her cheek, the words left Hip's mouth before he could think, always, dear goddess. Yoruichi instantly thawed, raising an eyebrow, so I guess this means you like me, huh? Still, she needed something, anything from Ichigo to give her an idea of what he really felt. Always. Come on, I have done everything to show you how much I care about you. Tell me this is serious, Ichigo. I can't do a fling. Please, just give me something concrete to go on here. You have absolutely no idea, he thought to her question. Softly kissing her cheek again, he murmured, I suppose you could say that. Care to accompany me to the ceremony, once I get a shower, Yoruichi-sama? She simply nodded as he opened the door that she had been glaring at. Letting him walk to the bathroom, she turned her glare onto Renji. After his shower, Ichigo was walking back to his room to pick up Zangetsu when he felt several sturdy thuds and heard a loud crunch to accompany each thud. He shun-pioed to the edge of the doorway to be surprised as Renji limped out, hair severely disheveled and clutching his ribs. Renji, what the hell hap? Ichigo began until he was cut off by Renji looking up at him with an expression that suggested he had just seen old man Yamamoto's Bankai release. Renji began nervously stuttering, sorry for interrupt. I mean, waking you. I mean, Now what exactly is it that you are sorry for, Renji Aburai? A low growl asked from inside the room that he had stumbled out of. Eyes widening, he stammered even more as his eyes cut several times from Ichigo to back into the room. Nothing. I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt while you're. No, I mean, I don't know anything about this morning. It tripped. Yeah, that's what happened. He finished with a yell as he shunned Pio to the entrance of the mansion to wait for them. Raising an eyebrow, Ichigo edged around the open door, coming face to face with a narrow-eyed Yoruichi. Everything okay, Yoruichi? Ichigo asked somewhat nervously. What the hell was that about? Of course, I was merely stressing the importance of privacy and of never interrupting our rest, she sniffed, idly looking at her nails. And that if he ever interrupted my time with you again, I would shred him into more pieces than his Taiko's Bankai. Ichigo couldn't help but to smile as he looked down to see several body-shaped indentations in the floor, several with severely cracked floorboards. I don't think that I could agree more. I never knew you were so protective of our rest, Lady Shihoin, he said with a cheeky grin. Okay, this means she had to have enjoyed it. Still, I need to know, could she possibly want more as us? After this morning, disturbing our rest is something that will earn one quite the beating, she said as she tossed her hair and began to walk out the door. Now that my specified cause and effect has been exemplified, we can go to your ceremony. Upon arriving to the main courtyard, Ichigo was shocked at the sheer number of Shinigami present. Standing at attention, each squad seemed to be formed up behind their respective captain and lieutenant, or bickering third seats in Yukataki's case. Renji soon left them to stand behind Byakuya, and Ichigo froze at the end of the incredibly long line of Shinigami. Kami, there are so many of them. Yoruichi nudged him onward, following right beside him. You can come with me, he whispered, sounding relieved. Of course, Baka, I get to give you your Haori, she whispered back with a wink. Ichigo breathed in relief. Okay, maybe this won't be so bad. As he walked, he saw different friends who gave him courteous nods: Rukia, Byakuya, Kairoku, Unohana, insane grins, Kenpachi and Akaku, flirty winks, Rangaku, Renji looking anywhere but at them, and smug grins from his own squad, standing alone in the spot for Squad 5. The captain commander waited for them at the head of the two rows. Ichigo Kurosaki, due to your numerous services to Soul Society, extraordinary strength of character and formidable fighting prowess, you are recommended for the position of Squad 5 Taiko. What is your answer? Taking a deep breath, Ichigo answered in a loud, clear voice, I would be greatly honored to be Taiko of Squad 5, Saotaicho. Then by my authority, and the agreement of all the other captains, you are hereby granted said rank. Lady Shihoin, I understand you would like to present him with his Haori. Yoruichi smiled. I would, Saotaicho. My student has made me proud. After she said this, she took the Haori handed to her by Yamamoto's lieutenant. When she unfolded it, he noticed that it was sleeveless, with a large emblem for the number 5 on the back. Smirking, Ichigo turned as she helped him put it on, though he suddenly shivered and blushed when he felt her fingers trail along his back. Once his Haori was on, he turned to face the crowd. Behind him, Yamamoto boomed, Gote 13, I give you Ichigo Kurosaki, Taiko of Squad 5. At this the entire area was filled with applause and cheers. Ichigo beamed at the praise. He couldn't scowl at a moment like this. Giving a small wave, he turned to Yoruichi who was radiating pride. He smiled, giving her a bow of recognition. Yamamoto continued, all captains, lieutenants and close friends of Kurosaki Taiko are to meet at the Kuchiki Manor for a celebration. Dismissed. As the crowd dispersed, Ichigo received countless congratulations and well wishes. Making his way over to his squad, he was grinning. It's official now. Gotta admit, this looks pretty damn good on me, huh? Drawing several eye rolls from the group. Remembering what the Saotaicho had just said, and who was going to be there, inspiration struck Ichigo. Now is as good a time as any to see what they think about upgrading the squad. Hey guys, I have an idea for who I'm going to choose as my lieutenant and I want your opinion. See, after he finished, he looked around at the group. I know it's your call, but I see no reason why not. Wouldn't be a bad choice, honestly, Shinji said. Could do worse, Kensai grunted. The rest of the group, including Yoruichi, agreed. Good, I'll let you know how it goes. So, you guys ready to go celebrate? Hell yeah, it's been a while since I've been to one of these. They usually have the good sake, Shinji shouted. Ichigo rolled his eyes as he turned to Yoruichi. You're coming too, right? Of course, Taiko. I have to come and take credit for all your success, she said with a wink. They all began the walk to the Kuchiki Manor, chatting aimlessly as they went. When they arrived, they were greeted by the rest of the captains and lieutenants. Kurosaki Taiko. They all yelled. Ichigo gave a quick bow and joined the festivities. After a while of handshakes and receiving congratulations, he spotted Byakuya. Excusing himself from the group, he went over to the Kuchiki leader, wanting to get a piece of business out of the way. Hey, Byakuya, can I talk to you for a minute? Time to solidify my squad. He nodded. You may, Kurosaki. You know, you can call me Ichigo, he said, raising an eyebrow. Getting straight to the point, he said, anyways, I wanted to run this by you first. I don't have a lieutenant for my squad, and I want Rukia to be it. Byakuya's eyes widened, then narrowed. Before he could speak, Ichigo continued, you know as well as I do that she's ready for it. She has been. I need someone strong, and someone I can fully trust to be my backup, and she fits the bill. This isn't really asking permission, rather for your blessing as it means everything to her. Plus, Ichigo chuckled, she might bring a little class to my ragtag squad. Not to mention the fact that she's pretty much been Yukataki's lieutenant for years now. Byakuya was silent for a moment. He knew the kid was right, however he could not help his apprehension. This was Rukia's chance to shine, yes, but he could not simply discard the protective nature he held. He had failed as a brother once, he would not do so again. Still, the young substitute had always done everything he could to protect his sister. Reluctantly, Byakuya finally replied, very well, Kuros. Ichigo, though you had best protect her. Never been a problem before, Give her some credit, though. She's tough enough to take out an Espada, you know. Byakuya just nodded. Good, however I'm not going to just give her the position. At this, the elder Kuchiki raised an eyebrow. Again, Ichigo beat Byakuya to speaking, saying, I don't know if you've noticed, but Rukia has been dying to prove herself for as long as I've known her. I'm going to invite her to the barracks tomorrow morning, then give her the chance to prove her strength. Exactly what chance are you giving her? Byakuya asked, suspicion coloring his voice. She'll get the chance to fight and show you that she's ready, Ichigo said with a small grin. And who would be her opponent? Me, Ichigo said. She has always liked to kick my ass, well now she can go all out. And before you ask, he said, holding up his hand, while I won't insult her by going easy on her, I will not use my full release. Right now, I'm not even sure what that actually is, but I'll give enough to really test her. You'll be pleasantly surprised, I would imagine. Actually, I'd like both you and Captain Yukataki to be there to witness. Remaining silent for a moment, Byakuya finally spoke, very well. I will trust you to not go too far. I will speak to Captain Yukataki as well. We will be at your barracks in the morning. At that, Byakuya turned and walked away, thinking to himself, I actually would enjoy seeing my sister go full strength, plus I know he won't go too far. Given what we've heard, I imagine even the Saotaicho would have grave trouble against Kurosaki's full strength. Turning back to the party, Ichigo searched the room. He saw Yoruichi talking to a few captains, the Vizards talking with some of their old comrades, Renji's big head and, wait. He saw a small patch of raven-colored hair next to Renji. Of course. Walking over, he stopped behind her, flicking her on the head, hey midget, come over here, I need to ask you something. Rukia rounded on him, about to kick him in the shins, but he had already stepped away. Following him, they came to a stop at the edge of the party. And how may I help you, Barry Taiko? Ha, don't be jealous because they recognized my greatness, Ichigo said sarcastically, puffing out his chest. Rukia rolled her eyes. Anyways, I am going to be building this squad from the ground up. I've already gotten a special combat and training unit, as well as some advisors. But, what I really need is a solid lieutenant. Why is he asking me? There are several good candidates. If you're looking for references, I can point some out later, Rukia said. Ichigo flicked her on the head again. I meant you, Baka. I want you to come and be my lieutenant. You've got the strength, you've got the skills, and you've got my trust. However, you'll have to earn it, he said with a smirk. Rukia was shocked. He wants me to be a lieutenant. Wait, what do you mean, earn it? You just said I have. Cutting her off, Ichigo explained, yeah, I know you're strong and all, but I'm giving you a chance to prove it. I've arranged for you to fight for the position. And just so you know, it will be witnessed by my squad, Captain Yukitaki and Byakuya. Rukia's eyes lit up. Ni-sama, Yukitaki Taiko. Wait, who would I be fighting? I can finally show Ni-sama that I'm strong enough to be an officer. I wonder who Ichigo would put me up against. Hiyori or Lisa? Grinning, Ichigo simply pointed a finger at himself. Rukia couldn't help but respond with a similar grin. I get to kick his ass in front of Ni-sama. Yes, this is great. Well, it will be as long as. You're not going to go all transcendent on me, are you? She knew she was strong, but Ichigo took out Aizen. That was going to be no contest if he unleashed his full power. No way, he replied quickly. I don't even know how far along my powers are yet. Since I have to work on a seal before I can try my releases, I'll just say that I'll be satisfied if you can knock me on my ass, he finished with a grin that would make Kenpachi proud. Just wait, Ichigo, I'll make sure that happens, Rukia thought with a similar grin. You're on, Barry. Good, meet us at the Squad 5 barracks first thing in the morning. I know you'll do great, he finished as he left to go back to the party with a wave. Ichigo felt like things were finally starting to line up. His confidence was peaking after the events of the day, and he knew that now was the time to finally put the most important matter to rest. Searching for the violet head of hair that he was so familiar with, he finally spotted her and made his way towards her. It's time to take the dive. Kami, why can I face enemies infinitely more powerful and be fine, yet when I need to tell Yoruichi how I actually feel, damn it, this is terrifying. Still, she needs to know. She needs to know that I can't simply like her, and that times like this morning meant so much more to me than just physical satisfaction. She needs to know that she's everything. Dad and Zangetsu were right, I have to give her the chance to decide for herself. Grimacing inwardly, he also thought, and, coward that I am, I'll know if I need to escape and stay somewhere else tonight. As he approached her, he saw that she was talking to Captain Hitsugaya, with Rangaku behind him talking to Renji. Coming up beside her, he noticed a lull in the conversation. Toshiro, do you mind if I borrow Lady Shihoin for a moment? Yoruichi's eyes narrowed at the title, but she said nothing. That's Captain Hitsu, never mind. That's fine, we had just wrapped up anyways, Toshiro said in a grumble. Speaking of wrapped up, Matsumoto chimed in, Ichigo, I know that your barracks won't be fixed for a while. If you need a place to stay, I have some room for you, she said with a flirty wink, while Renji went pale at the look on Yoruichi's face and began backing away. Ichigo blushed, definitely not expecting that in the middle of a party. Trying to find a way to decline that wouldn't make him sound like an idiot or give away his current sleeping situation, he stuttered, that won't be necessary Rangaku, I already. He is staying at the Shihoin mansion, Yoruichi cut in sharply, saving him. This bitch is one step away from being my new scratching post. Turning her narrowed eyes onto her Ichigo, she said, Ichigo, you said you needed to borrow me for a minute. Ichigo nodded, slightly confused at the near-lethal aura that was emanating from Yoruichi. Yeah, actually I did. Good to see you Toshiro, Rangaku, he said as Yoruichi grabbed his hand and led him to a balcony overlooking a garden. She turned to him, golden eyes narrowing at him. Hey, what's with the death stare? Ichigo said, nervous about that look being directed at him while he was near a ledge. Not exactly a good start. Oh nothing. You go from kissing me this morning to getting bedding options for tonight, she finished with a growl. I will destroy that bitch if she ever comes after my Ichigo. Are you jealous? Ichigo laughed. He couldn't help it. The idea that she, Yoruichi Shihoin, had anything to be jealous of was hilarious. Okay, maybe this will go better than I thought. However, when her eyes became slits, he wisely stopped laughing. That wasn't my fault, Yoruichi. If you recall, you're the only one I've ever asked to sleep by me. Ichigo said as he knew he had to get this conversation back on positive terms as soon as possible. Yoruichi seemed somewhat mollified. I guess that's true. You even said you sort of like me, she sniffed. She still couldn't help the disappointment she felt at the word, like. I just wish you felt like I do. That's the problem. I know that I'm in love with you, Ichigo, yet I can't really tell where you are. Could you love me? Not some childish infatuation, but a real, lifelong love that would require you to commit to me long term. I know you're dense, but I also know that you don't throw words around to appease others, so I guess I'll just have to take what I can get, for now. Yeah, about that, there's something I need to talk to you about, Ichigo said awkwardly, looking anywhere but her eyes and causing Yoruichi's heart to freeze. No, come on, don't do this to me now, she thought in a panic. Her heart started beating at an incredibly fast pace, and she braced herself. Is he seriously about to reject me? In the middle of a party, no less. Clearing his throat, Ichigo asked, do you remember when Zangetsu said that I was nearly complete? Yoruichi stiffly nodded, not trusting her voice and trying to keep tears from her eyes. Ichigo kept looking anywhere but Yoruichi's eyes, mainly to keep himself from losing his nerve. He had been thinking non-stop about how he was going to tell Yoruichi how he felt, and he had finally arrived at an answer, which made it no easier, he found. It took me a while to find out what he and Shiro meant. The reason I was never complete is that I refused to listen to parts of myself. I ignored my instinct, true, but I discovered that I have also been ignoring something else, my heart. Yoruichi, I have been ignoring my heart for a long time because what it tells me, it absolutely terrifies me. It terrifies me, because I don't like you, I can't like you. Ichigo paused as he looked down, trying again to steel his nerve. This was absolutely petrifying. His confidence from a few moments ago seemed like a distant memory. Still, it was actually his father's parting words that had helped develop this new perspective, and he knew he was doing the right thing, no matter how she responded. Flashback. As the elder Kurosaki had seen the guilty look on Ichigo's face while looking at the poster of Masaki his first night back, he grabbed Ichigo's shoulder, forced their eyes to meet, and said the words he had been wanting to for years. Ichigo, do not dare take away the significance of Masaki's sacrifice with your guilt and your feelings of unworthiness. Her greatest dream was for you and your sisters to grow up safely, to have a future. Drowning your life in guilt, and living in fear of your own heart is a shitty way to thank her. Live, son, embrace the love you've found, fight for it, and keep protecting. You've made me more proud than I'll ever be able to express, and I know Masaki is too. Flashback end. Tears finally began to fall from Yoruichi's eyes. She felt humiliated. She felt heartbroken. Why did he have to do this here? Couldn't he at least try and protect her pride? He just inexplicably trampled on her heart, which was confusing, especially after this morning. Why the fuck didn't he even like her? She had made herself so vulnerable, rediscovering things about herself that she'd been afraid were lost. Why did it have to amount to nothing? Ichigo gasped when he saw her tears. He suddenly realized where he had cut off his little speech, and mentally slapped himself, with Zangetsu helping in exasperation of his wielder's density. Stepping to her, Ichigo quickly said, "Don't get ahead of me." She blinked up at him, obvious hurt in her eyes. He took a deep breath, grabbing her hands. It was time. He may be innocent and naive, and he might be as dense as lead, but one thing he would not be anymore was unsure of his standing with the love of his life. Okay, here goes, everything. Yoruichi, I don't like you. I can't just like you. I adore you. I worship the ground you walk on. You are in my every thought, my every dream, and I treasure you more than my own life. Yoruichi, I love you. Yoruichi froze, her eyes growing wide as her agonized thoughts came to an abrupt halt. Wait, what? Did he really just? What? It was all she could say as her mind began racing along a new path. Can this really be happening? Surely I misheard him. He is not the type to just throw words around, though. Please Ichigo, say it again. Ichigo's terror kicked up an extra notch at her question and the silence and stunned expression that followed, his fear nearly overwhelming him. Shit. I knew I would just end up pushing her away, I knew it. But what was this morning? Just another tease. Whatever. The worst is here. I may as well say it again. Just because it's going to tear my heart to shreds doesn't make it any less true. Stealing his nerve one last time, and swallowing his pride, he quietly whispered, I said, I love you, Yoruichi. He couldn't finish, as Yoruichi had grabbed his haori, yanked him down and smashed her lips to his. This kiss was nothing like the ones from this morning. This one was raw, passionate, desperate even. Wait, what does this mean? Thank you Kami, I was willing to settle for but love. Yoruichi couldn't stop the tears, nor did she care to. She felt like she was about to burst, she was so happy. She let go of his haori, then held Ichigo's face in her hands, blinking away tears. She whispered, say it one more time, Ichigo, please. Ichigo's heart picked up, she wants me to say it again. This has to be good, right? Staring her straight in the eye, his heart seemed to want to burst as he said quietly, I love you, Yoruichi Shihoin. He caught her as she jumped at him, kissing him again. She couldn't help it, her heart felt like it would leap out of her chest at any moment. But, she had to tell him. He needed to know. Breaking off the kiss, she pulled back, looked into his eyes and said, I love you, Ichigo. Kami, I love you so much. Ichigo's arms tightened around her as he held back tears of his own. He couldn't care less at this moment if someone saw his tears, as his chest was warming, and amidst the myriad of feelings he was experiencing, he could feel a peace settling over his soul. It's done, Ichigo. I am proud of you. 'Bout time, Kingy. Now, take that kitty home and get some puss OWWW. What the hell was that for, old man? Thanks, Zanjetsu. It was my extreme pleasure. Oh, both of you can go to hell, Shiro huffed. Ichigo ignored him, still clinging onto Yoruichi for dear life. In that moment, he knew. It was worth it. Everything was worth it. Sacrificing his powers, being abandoned, all the fear, the pain, dying, they were all worth it. Those 3 little words made every bit of difference. She loved him. Ichigo allowed a shaky breath to escape as he tightened his arms around her even more. She loves me. This certainly turned out to be a lovely night, a kind voice interrupted the moment. You know Hana-san. Hi, Ichigo concluded dumbly as he jumped, releasing Yoruichi. Yoruichi couldn't even roll her eyes. She was still under the high of their confessions. Hana smiled. Relax, Kurosaki-san. I am quite happy that the two of you finally saw what the rest of us could. However, I came out here to simply help you avoid an audience, if you so wished. Ichigo froze. Good looking out, Hana. While Ichigo was not embarrassed in the slightest, he had Yoruichi's nobility to consider. What will they say? Would they let me court her? Ichigo grinned. Maybe I'll get to be one of the peacocks. That way I could keep them the fuck away from her. Yoruichi sniffed. Thanks, Retsu. Come on, Ichigo, she said as she began to drag Ichigo with her. She stopped though, turning back and kissing him chastely on the lips. I love you, she whispered, to which he responded the same, earning him a blinding smile and one last kiss. Hana smiled. They are perfect for each other. This made her happy. She wouldn't openly admit it, but the kind Taiko had quite the romantic side, and these two were making her smile widely. Ichigo was riding an intense high from hearing the words he had so desperately wanted to hear. You guys go ahead, I'll just be a minute, okay, he said kindly to them. I'm sure he wants to dry his eyes before coming in. My little teary Taiko, Yoruichi giggled as she wiped her own eyes. Holy shit, I am really getting sappy. I don't care, though. Ichigo loves me back, and was actually the first to say it. Still, I hope he knows what he's in for. This will not be some juvenile boyfriend-girlfriend tryst. Just as I belong to him, his ass belongs to me. Don't be long, Ichigo. I don't know how long I can keep from killing her if a certain blonde Fukuteku comes after what's mine, she said with a lusty growl. He kissed her softly, smiling at her choice of words as he would be proud to be hers. "I'll be quick, Kitty-chan," he smirked, letting Hana guide her back inside. As he turned, looking over the small pond that was outside the balcony, his thoughts turned inward. She loves me. Okay guys, I'm pumped as hell, and I've got to do something before I explode. Cammy, I just want to yell at the top of my lungs, you know what? That'll have to work. You wanna help me with this? If you wish. I feel quite pleased myself, as the weather in here has never been better. Hell yeah, let's give those bastards something to think about. We might even make a captain piss themselves. Ichigo smirked, drawing his Reiatsu. Supported by Zangetsu and Shiro, he let loose a mighty bellow to the night sky. This bellow was clearly not of anger, or hurt, rather a loud and long woo. To give his overwhelming emotions some manner of escape. He couldn't care less about what anyone else thought at the moment. The goddess of his dreams reciprocated his love, pouring as much of himself as he could into this bellow was, at the moment, the only way he could think of to help him release the excess energy so he could keep his wits about him and not just run in there and kiss Yoruichi in front of everyone. All present in the manor could feel the joy, the pure elation in the mix of his tremendous bellow and Reiatsu release, yet many eyebrows raised as curiosity was the dominant feeling amongst everyone else. Turning back, Ichigo smirked when he felt every eye on him as he stepped back into the ballroom. He couldn't wipe the stupid grin off his face as he approached a group that contained Kairoku, Yukataki, Hana and Yoruichi. As he neared Yoruichi, Byakuya appeared beside him. "I see you are in fine spirits, Ichigo," he murmured dryly. Ichigo turned to him. "What can I say? You throw one hell of a party." With that, the atmosphere instantly relaxed, with everyone getting a laugh. Stepping next to his violet-haired goddess, he gave her a small, sheepish grin. "Sorry about that, Yoruichi-sama. I guess I got a little excited after today." Yoruichi slightly blushed at this. "Damn it, I can't wait till we can be open about this. I am missing so many good teasing opportunities. Still, it was so sweet. Cammy, I still can't believe he actually said he loves me. He has changed so much in my life, my sweet Ichigo," Yoruichi thought with a slightly distant look as she softly smiled. Ichigo snapped his fingers in front of her eyes, bringing her back to reality that included a group of softly chuckling taikos, all of whom were smiling kindly at the couple who thought that they were hiding it so well. "I'm sure today has been quite an exciting one for you indeed, Ichigo," Yukataki said with a wink. "No, however, that we are all quite proud of you and quite happy for you as well," he finished in a whisper. Ichigo stood there in shock for a moment. How the hell do they know? Still, that was nice of him. Thank you, Yukataki Taiko, Ichigo said in a whisper as well. He noticed Yoruichi shuffle closer to him, and he couldn't help but smile. "While your secret is safe with us, I must say that you two are so well suited for each other, and you definitely deserve each other," Retsu added, causing the two to blush. She was quite happy to see Yoruichi's life move forward, and she knew that her friend had chosen well. "I can only hope that, one day, I will be able to live up to that, Hana-san. Until then, I'll just continue to thank whatever God saw fit to bless me," Ichigo said softly as he slightly bowed to Yoruichi. He was by no means a sappy person, but the thought of Yoruichi's love for him being anything but pure grace was impossible to believe, and he would be the first to admit that fact. He blushed though, as all the captains in the group gave him a kind smile, even Byakuya. Yoruichi looked up at him, mouth slightly agape. No one had ever said anything like that about her in her entire life. She was fighting an enormous urge to tear up again as well as the urge to kiss him in front of the entire room. "Soon, we will work out the details, but I'm happy for now." Yar, would you look at the time?" Kairoku said slyly. "I think it's time to head in for the night, We need to make sure the Taiko is able to rest before his first official day, tomorrow. Congratulations, Kurosaki Taiko. Life will become much more interesting again with you around, I am sure," he finished with a tip of his hat. The other captains bid them a good night, and Ichigo turned around to see that most of the captains and lieutenants were beginning to leave. As he and Yoruichi moved towards the vizards, Ichigo heard the voice of Rangaku again as she was walking out the door with her captain. "Ichigo, If you ever need a place to stay, I have plenty of room in my quarters, she said suggestively as she disappeared through the doorway. He instantly felt a heavy wave of killing intent come from the goddess next to him. Wanting to avoid a brutal beating for the flirty Fukuteku, as well as get in a little teasing, he stood in front of Yoruichi. Leaning down to her ear, he whispered lowly, "Easy, kitten, don't get too wound up. You're already going to have your hands full with me tonight, so you better save your energy." The look on Yoruichi's face was priceless. Her mouth and eyes were wide, creating a highly astonished expression. Ichigo said thoughtfully. "I see why you loved doing it to me all these times," he smirked. "Shall we retire for the evening, Lady Shihoin?" he asked in his formal voice. Yoruichi's eyes narrowed, with an evil grin coming onto her face. "Oh berry boy, you have much to learn. You can only tease a cat for so long before the claws come out," she said as she sashayed by him. Ichigo felt a thrill of fear and raw lust at her reaction. He knew she was dangerous, but damn, was she sexy at the same time. "Was it just me, or did she look like she was going to kill you?" Ichigo heard Shinji say as he walked up to the stunned Taiko who was watching Yoruichi's dangerously swaying hips. I sure hope not," Ichigo said quietly, getting a chuckle from his visored friend. "Let's head out, Cap'n. We have a long day tomorrow," Shinji said as he clapped Ichigo on the back. Ichigo nodded, following behind his wondrously scary goddess. As they approached the entrance, he saw Byakuya and Rukia wishing everyone a good night. Nearing them, Ichigo said quietly, "Oi, midget. We're meeting tomorrow morning at the barracks. Be there, and be ready. By the way, can you bring whatever paperwork I'll need to make your promotion official? I don't even know where to begin to look. We'll sort out your armband and all too, alright. That is, of course, if you think you can actually knock me down," he finished with a grin. She had scowled at the midget comment, but regained her professional mask for her brother. "Hi, Kurosaki Taiko. And cut out the Taiko shit. You will only call me that in front of the squad. I will be highly offended otherwise, understood?" She couldn't help the small smile that came at hearing this. "Hi, Baka Taiko. And don't worry, I'll get it in few cuts just to be sure." Ichigo rolled his eyes, but left with a small grin. Exclamation mark. For those uncomfortable with adult situations, skip ahead. Nothing too graphic, but if these scenarios offend you, skip to the end of the ch. As they all reached the mansion, the group split up to their various rooms. Ichigo followed Yoruichi, anticipating her attack. He knew it was coming, as she had not even spared him a glance all the way back, yet her hips never stopped swaying. Thinking to himself in another moment of sheer bravado, Ichigo formulated a plan. "Actually, let's try out these new powers. I bet I could beat even her for speed, especially if I caught her off guard." Taking his opportunity once near their rooms, Ichigo shunpioed to Yoruichi, grasping her waist as he brought her into his room. Before she could react, he had her pressed against the now closed door, hands held above her head in his steel grip. He remembered her reactions to this during their teasing, and decided it was worth trying. Hungrily, he pressed his lips to hers. While he was kissing her, her reactions caught up, and soon a battle of tongues was in progress, each trying to gain the upper hand on the other. After a few moments, both broke away gasping for air. Leaning in close, his breath tickling her ear and neck, he huskily whispered, "Now, let's see what we can do about those claws, kitten." Yoruichi shivered at the delicious combination of their position and his words. This is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, one of the hottest situations I've ever been in. Where is this bravado coming from? My, Ichigo, Yoruichi started, slightly breathless as she nipped the soft skin of his neck. "Picking up where we left off this morning, are we?" However, Ichigo suddenly stiffened and looked shy as the reality of the situation came crashing down on him. This morning had been his very first kiss, and now so much more was happening and the pressure was mounting. Ichigo knew that he wasn't afraid of being with her, as they had confessed their love, and because of that he could admit that he wanted her more than he could ever possibly explain. Rather, the issue was that he didn't want to disappoint his goddess with his innocence and glaring lack of experience. Sure, he had seen all manner of movies and such, so he was aware of everything involved, but it was much different in reality. What if he didn't measure up to her expectations? Ichigo shuddered at the thought, and wanted her to keep her expectations low for now. Actually, you'll have to be patient with me. I'm not experienced. To be honest, this morning was my first kiss and Ichigo was cut off as Yoruichi gently leaned forward and kissed him softly. Ichigo, she whispered, wanting to calm his fears, relax. Remember your passion a few moments ago. Let that guide you. Don't be anxious, because we will learn each other in this way in time. I just want you, Ichigo. Never forget, I fell in love with you as you are. Ichigo let her arms down, turning the carnal position into a loving embrace. Her words filled his heart with joy, and no small amount of peace. In time, Yoruichi, my goddess, forever couldn't be enough time with you. He pulled her close to his chest, kissing her softly on the lips. He wanted her madly, his body wanting to fulfill every story and scenario he had heard of, even the ones from the crappy romance movies Yuzu had made him watch. However, this was his first time ever being with a woman, and he had just learned that the woman he loved him back. He needed something more than physical release tonight, but couldn't define it, much less articulate it. Letting his instinct guide him, Ichigo swallowed his anxiety, quelled his innocence, looked into her eyes and spoke softly to her. Yoruichi, know this, I meant every word I said tonight. I am in love with you. I love you with every bit of who and what I am. You are my goddess. Yoruichi, my heart belongs to you, and you alone. While I definitely want to explore our passion, tonight I just want to give every bit of myself to you, both body and soul. I want you to know that you are my goddess. When he finished speaking, Ichigo wrapped her arms around his neck, lifted her up and carried her bridal style to the bed. Yoruichi's breath stopped, and her legs felt like they would have given out at any moment, had he not carried her. She had been with men before, and had even experienced what she considered to be love, but she had never experienced feelings like these. The pure honesty and passion in his words were melting her heart, and the look of pure adoration in his eyes was intoxicating. Ichigo had said that he was inexperienced, and in many ways it showed, yet his words and touches created a smoldering fire within her that was quickly rising. It wasn't solely lust that she felt. There was plenty of that, but this was deeper. She knew that she wanted more than sex with Ichigo. She wanted to make love with him, to express the depth of what was their love. While it was true that Yoruichi wanted nothing more than to fully express the depth of passion, love and desire she felt for him, she knew that this was his first time. With that in mind, she knew he would be nervous and feel under pressure as he had no experience to draw from. Add to that the tremendous level of innocence, and Yoruichi began to feel pressure herself. Pushing the pressure to the back of her mind, she knew that Ichigo had really opened himself up tonight with his words and action, so she decided to help ease him into this wonderful new world they were entering. Show me, Ichigo, show me how much you love me, and I will do the same, with you. Ichigo softly smiled at her response as he leaned down to kiss her. Though it started off as a soft, sweet kiss, it quickly grew more and more passionate, their tongues dancing in a battle for dominance. Tentatively, he reached his hand down to her waist, gripping it with slightly trembling fingers. While he was trying to swallow his anxiety, touching his goddess, the woman he had been so acutely aware of for so long, this way made him feel as if he was in a dream. A very, very good dream. Sensing what she thought was his worry, Yoruichi gently grabbed his hand, guiding it up her body to her chest, causing both her and Ichigo to moan as she used his hand to squeeze. Later, after several rounds of releasing all of their pent-up love, lust and energy, the two lovers lay spent in each other's arms. Neither could believe the events of the day, but both were ecstatic at the result. Yoruichi, Ichigo said sleepily. She replied in the same sleepy, yet satisfied tone. I'm sorry I didn't tell you how I really feel sooner. I was terrified. You were so amazing, I was sure you couldn't love me back. But I couldn't lose you. As long as you were in my life in some capacity, I could survive. Honestly, I'm still nervous as to what your clan might think. She rolled over, looking at him with a kind expression. I was nervous too. Not only are you resurrecting feelings I haven't experienced in over a lifetime, but I always thought you were going to end up with somebody like Rukia or Hime. As for the clan, don't worry, I'll sort that out. Though, the council may try to make you request their permission to court me, she said with a tired, but sly smile. Ichigo grinned, so I'll get to be a peacock, too. She couldn't hold back her giggle. You'll be the only one that matters. I can't tell you how happy I am, Ichigo. I completely understand. You saved my life, completed my soul, and even love me. Yoruichi, I meant what I said. I am yours, in this life and all others. I love you. I love you too, she whispered, curling up to his chest. They soon fell asleep, sated from the day that had provided them with what they had both prayed for, each other. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as well as checking out the author on fanfiction.net.